Hi, welcome back to L&D Snippets. In the last couple of episodes of L&D Snippets, we talked about motivation towards learning. We found that there are three categories of learners in the workforce. The first category of people are the ones who are generally intrinsically motivated to learn. They're self-motivated, but they constitute a small percentage of the workforce. We saw the second category of people are the ones who are extrinsically motivated to learn. They learn only if there is the prospect of a benefit or a reward. But they constitute a large percentage of people. The third category of people are the ones who are disinterested in learning, or otherwise they are indifferent to learning. They absolutely have no interest. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about what we can do as L&D practitioners to drive learning in the workforce. In other words, what we can do to motivate our employees to learn. Well, I generally talk about 5 steps which can help L&D practitioners drive motivation in the workforce. What are these 5 steps they need to take? They are educate, involve, remove, reward, and engage. We will learn a little bit more about each of these 5 steps. But before that, a polite reminder to subscribe to this channel. And if you subscribe to the channel, you would get notification about new videos getting uploaded to the L&D Snippets series. All right, so let's talk about the first step. The first step is to educate. It's important for L&D practitioners to educate their workforce about the significance of learning. In the present day, with technology disrupting everything, it's important for the workforce to upskill and reskill themselves all the time. And we L&D practitioners can counsel their employees about learning. So, education or creating awareness about why learning is important, what learning is relevant for them, where and how they can access learning is the important first step in your efforts to drive motivation towards learning at the workplace. Now let's talk about the second step. The second step is to involve. It's important for us to involve our learners in the learning design, development, and deployment process. Talk to your learners, find out from them what they think is important to them. What are their priorities from a career perspective? What new skills they want to acquire? What are their learning preferences, their learning styles? All these would become great inputs for your learning design and development process. Talk to the learners, talk to their managers, supervisors, talk to your leadership team to gain their perspective as well. It's also important to involve your learners directly in the learning design and development process. In the age of the millennials, it's important to do that. Millennials will be really excited if they're part of the learning design and development process themselves. Have you ever thought about having your subject matter experts and learners working together to co-create learning curriculum? If you haven't thought about it, I would suggest that you give it a try. You could have a wonderful experience. Involve your learners in the learning deployment process as well. Have learning champions who can help you drive learning in the organization. Set up communities of practice who can also work with you hand in hand to drive learning deployment in the organization. The desire to implement an idea is very high when the idea is from the learner himself or herself. That's a very important truth about motivation. So the important step, the second step in your efforts to drive motivation towards learning in the organization is to involve your learners in the learning design, development, and deployment process. Now let's talk about the third step. The third step is to remove barriers to learning. Typically in organizations, learners have two different types of barriers. They are internal barriers and external barriers. Internal barriers are internal to the learners. Their mindset, their beliefs, their attitude, these could also come in the way of the learning. External barriers are typically the external environment, the ecosystem that exists in the organization, the policies and procedures governing learning in the organization, and so on. So, as L&D practitioners, we need to remove these barriers if we really want to motivate our workforce to learn. Why it is important? If barriers exist and if they're very dominant, then there is a likelihood that the learners will lose interest. They will get demotivated and they may not really learn, or they may look at other avenues outside the organization to learn. Especially learners who are intrinsically motivated and also those who are extrinsically motivated will probably look at options outside the organization. And those who are not interested in learning will get further disinterested. So it's important that as L&D practitioners, we do something about it. So how can we remove barriers? We need to take the help of coaching, counseling, and other techniques to remove internal barriers. It's important that people who have got internal barriers like mindset and negative attitude, beliefs, etc., need to go through the process of counseling or coaching. HR and L&D functions need to play an important role there. What we can do about external barriers? Well, we also need to make sure that we remove the external barriers. So if, for example, your organization has a learning management system which is not very user friendly, the ease of access is not there, or people cannot access it from anywhere. They can only access this from their office. Then that is an external barrier. If the managers in the organization do not encourage their employees to participate in training programs, or they discourage them to participate in training programs, that's clearly an external barrier. So we really, as L&D practitioners, need to work on both internal and external barriers, try and remove them to facilitate learning. That's extremely important. Let's talk about the fourth step now. The fourth step is to reward the learners. Well, reward plays a very important role in motivating learners to learn. We said earlier that intrinsically motivated learners really don't look for a reward or benefit because they learn for the passion of learning. And extrinsically motivated learners are actually excited by the prospect of a benefit or reward. Nevertheless, reward plays an important role in motivating learners, actually all category of learners, both intrinsically motivated learners and extrinsically motivated learners. But the difference lies in the kind of reward that you offer them. So when it comes to intrinsically motivated learners, you can reward them with additional learning opportunities. You can tell them that if you complete or if you acquire certain learning credits, we'll enroll you for some additional certification courses. We'll give you more learning opportunities. They will actually be excited to learn more. When it comes to extrinsically motivated learners, actually you will have to offer them a material benefit or a reward, something which is really tangible. Possibly you can link a career progression to completion of some learning courses, etc., or completion of some certification courses. You can link a salary increment to learning or acquisition of a certain amount of credits, etc. While you may not be able to offer significant reward for every learning intervention, but you really have to think about some reward or other, irrespective of the nature of the program or the curriculum that your extrinsically motivated learners are going through. It could be a small thing like providing recognition to the learner for completing certain courses. And the whole range can be from a simple recognition to career progression, salary increment, opportunity for international assignments, etc. There can be whole range of rewards for extrinsically motivated learners. So by now, I'm sure you would have understood the importance of rewarding learners as a very key activity or as a very key motivator for learners. Let's talk about the fourth step now. The fourth step is to reward the learners. Well, reward plays a very important role in motivating learners to learn. We said earlier that intrinsically motivated learners really don't look for a reward or benefit because they learn for the passion of learning. And extrinsically motivated learners are actually excited by the prospect of a benefit or reward. Nevertheless, reward plays an important role in motivating learners, actually all category of learners, both intrinsically motivated learners and extrinsically motivated learners. But the difference lies in the kind of reward that you offer them. So when it comes to intrinsically motivated learners, you can reward them with additional learning opportunities. You can tell them that if you complete or if you acquire certain learning credits, we'll enroll you for some additional certification courses. We'll give you more learning opportunities. They will actually be excited to learn more. When it comes to extrinsically motivated learners, actually you will have to offer them a material benefit or a reward, something which is really tangible. Possibly you can link a career progression to completion of some learning courses, etc., or completion of some certification courses. You can link a salary increment to learning or acquisition of a certain amount of credits, etc. While you may not be able to offer significant reward for every learning intervention, but you really have to think about some reward or other, irrespective of the nature of the program or the curriculum that your extrinsically motivated learners are going through. It could be a small thing like providing recognition to the learner for completing certain courses. And the whole range can be from a simple recognition to career progression, salary increment, opportunity for international assignments, etc. There can be whole range of rewards for extrinsically motivated learners. So by now, I'm sure you would have understood the importance of rewarding learners as a very key activity or as a very key motivator for learners to learn. Now is the fifth and the last step. The fifth step is to engage. It's important for L&D practitioners to engage with the learners through the learning process. That's absolutely important, that we need to stay engaged with them. How do you engage with them? We'll have to look at engagement holistically. The learning content that we provide has to be engaging. It has to be interesting, inspiring. It has to be fun-filled. It has to be relevant. That will keep them engaged. You can bring in elements of gamification. You can create a leadership board. You can bring in different other strategies to keep the learners engaged in the learning process. Bring in the leaders to engage with the learners through the learning process. Get them to interact, inspire, share their stories about learning, how learning has made a difference to their career and their personal and professional life, and so on. You can think about multiple engagement strategies, but it's absolutely important to stay engaged with the learners throughout the learning process. Should engagement be restricted only to the learners? No. You also need to engage with their managers, with the business leaders, with the leadership team in the organization. It's very important to engage with them. If the learners have any challenges, barriers, obstacles, bring those leaders to remove those obstacles and facilitate their learning. Share regular updates, dashboards, reports with your leaders, with the management team, with the managers of the learners, and with the learners themselves. It's very important to have a very strong governance around your learning interventions, because that's another way of keeping your leaders apprised and engaged about the progress of the learners and get their feedback periodically. It's also important to be in touch with the learners throughout the learning process, find out from them from time to time what's going well, what's not going well, what challenges they're facing while learning, and so on. So you definitely need to have a holistic engagement strategy for your learners. That's why engagement is a very important activity for the L&D function to use that as a key lever to drive learning in the organization. So these are the 5 steps or 5 actions L&D practitioners can take to drive motivation towards learning in the organization or at the workplace. Once again, a quick reminder of the 5 steps: educate, involve, remove, reward, and engage. If you take these 5 steps, or if you take these 5 actions, rest assured you can create a pull factor towards learning in your organization. Otherwise, learning would always become a push. Even if you may manage to get your learners into the workplace, into the classroom, or even if you manage to get them to complete online courses, this is only going to be a tick in the box. But if you really want to drive motivation towards learning, if you really want to drive capability building in the organization, if you want to create a culture of learning in your organization, you need to take these 5 steps to really make learning impactful. Stay tuned for more videos in the L&D Snippet series. Thank you very much. See you again.